What is happening? What is happening? Scott, what's going on, brother?
Hey, brother. I appreciate you the invite onto your podcast, Kent.
Absolutely, my man. So, guys, I am honored to have a really good friend of mine here. One of my boardroom members, one of our partners, a guy that has been instrumental in helping us inside of, not only inside of our education business, but inside of one of our real estate businesses, as well as he's helped tons of other people inside of our boardroom and real estate worldwide community. Scott Morris is joining us today, coming in from Colombia, right?
Colombia, South America. I can see out my window right now on the mountain as it's just filled with coffee trees, and the weather's perfect, little tropical atmosphere. It's great, man.
I love that, brother. So let's start with there, man. Why Colombia? Talk to me outside of being obvious. Talk to me.
Well, so, when I very first met you, Kent, I was new to the industry. I went to one of your events. I was invited there by my partner, 𝑴𝒐𝒂𝒔𝒕, and we went to Tennessee, I think, where the event was, first real estate event ever. And I went there and I fell in love with the concept that Alex was already doing and that you guys were kind of preaching on and expanding on. And so my initial thoughts were, okay, let's replicate this in-house. And then after analyzing the CPL, or the cost per lead, to be able to do this onshore, I realized that I needed to kind of position myself offshore to get a CPL dialed in for the conversion rates that we anticipated within this industry. And so it just led me on a journey, bouncing around, trying a couple of outside places until I was like, dude, I'll just go down there and do it myself. I'll move myself, my kids down, we'll go all the way to South America, and I'll launch this bad boy myself from my own wholesaling office. And then ultimately, after 6 or 7 months, people started hearing and they were like, hey, can I get some of those leads? And that's what kind of started the commercial side of 𝒊𝒎𝒆.
So what was the biggest adjustment and now, had you ever lived out of country before?
No.
Wow, okay. So packing your shit up and moving to another country, did you speak Spanish when you moved down there?
Nope, and I'm only about 15% now.
Dude, I love this. This is why I love doing these podcasts. There's all kinds of layers to this shit that I get to figure out. So your ass moved.
Yep.
Colombia, does not hardly speak the language, moved your family. So walk me through what that entire process looked like. And that's a ballsy move.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, but it wasn't supposed to be as ballsy as it ended up being, because I had found this monster call center down here, 3 stories and the side of a mall, signed a contract with them, the largest BPO service provider. And I was like, great, I'll get offshore rates, but I'll have a management team in place and I'll just come in and coach them here and there. And I'm gonna enjoy living in South America and generating leads for my wholesale office. And after I put my family on a plane, all my furniture in a container, I had only guaranteed to buy 17 cubicles in this room. After I'm already here, 2 weeks before launch, they call me up, Kent, and not even the big guy, his little underling, called me up and said, hey man, I'm so sorry. We got to break our contract. AT&T just agreed to take the whole floor. I said, bro, I'm already here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I said, okay. I said, we are now professional competitors at war. I will take every high caliber quality individual from your organization. I pay more, my hours are better, my culture is better. I'll launch my own thing. And so I have been welcoming them with open arms at my door. We have 180 employees. I would wager 110 of them have worked at my competitor's office prior to now. And all it took was them kind of turning sideways, and I have no personal ill will, but professionally, bro, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have let me in. I am the highest paying call center in the state right now. So yeah, it worked out well.
So you go after it, you open up an office, you go and start hiring people, you get going, you're focused, as you talked about earlier, primarily coming out of the gate to working with Alex and his brother and providing call center leads, effectively cold calling leads for motivated sellers, right?
Right.
So talk to me about that first, 6 months to a year, kind of what you, again, we'll get to where we are now, but I wanted to understand what you learned in that first journey and how you have improved to get so much to a point now where you guys are considered one of the premier floors out there in the industry today. But we'll get to that. I want
Sure.
to talk about, what it looked like to start off, the bumps, the bruises, the persistence, the resilience, everything that took to get you here.
So I think it starts 7 years even prior to moving here, because I had a previous company that was a lead generation company, a true enterprise level call center, digital media company, selling leads to attorneys out of a distressed cohort. So very similar. People that have financial issues, people that were under some level of duress, people thought they were a victim of X or Y. And so we grew a monster lead generation company in South Florida, and that ended up at 160 some employees as well too. And what I loved about it, once that finally hit its kind of delta and then that went out, I really reached out to Alex one day, and 𝑴𝒐𝒂𝒔𝒕 is the Alex I mentioned, and I was like, hey man, I'm looking for a new pirate ship, what's the new thing that kids are doing? He's like, yeah, you gotta understand this. And that's when he introduced you to me, and so how we scaled my previous business was very cookie cutter, replicatable in your guys' industry, because I found it to be highly disruptible. There's no real big, I'm not playing against Wall Street guys, it's all mom and pop guys. Everybody's tends to find a mediocre or below level of sales skills. It's fragmented, tremendously fragmented in every market. And so once I realized that it was just there was more hobbyists than entrepreneurs in this space, I fell in love. So, okay, this is dominatable. And then everybody's got the same problem, which is they're working underqualified leads. And so what they do is you have closers essentially being a glorified VA. Because if you have a closer going through really terrible, bad, underqualified leads, it's a morale killer. Closers should be closing, fronters should be fronting. And so all that is what we just implemented here. And then that previous building block is how this house got built so fast, if you will, once we got out of the gates.
So your model is that you guys, number one, take the data, right, a data source, and you go through great lengths to clean up all that data. So there's trying to hedge against wasting time, effort, energy, all the nonsense, to your point, right? And then you put a fronter out there, effectively somebody to qualify the lead, is that right?
Yeah, so it's exactly, we call it a fronter-closer model. So we're highly disciplined and highly trained on what fronters' objections and scripts should be, and we very rarely blend the two. In theory, a fronter could graduate to become a closer, but I want my closers knowing closers' objections, rebuttals, third-party stories. My fronters dialed in on this. And having that segmented is my business model, because closers come to me for leads. I'm doing the whole front end of their business now, Kent, which is the data integrity, the data research, cash buyer density search, lead lifecycle management, dialer platform, but the most important part is the qualifier. So that way, by the time they get to it, they're actually leads a closer should talk to, is at least how we set up the business model from Jump Street.
And so when you guys, so talk to me, if you were going to coach somebody out there, okay?
Yes, sir.
That they were trying to set up a similar model, right?
Yes, sir.
And you and I both know all the trials and tribulations and just all the reasons why that is a pain in the ass to do. But just humor me for a second. If somebody was going out there and they were trying to set up effectively this fronter-closer model, talk about that discipline that you just referred to. I mean, it requires heavy scripting. It requires heavy coaching. It requires a lot of nuance. So talk a little bit, and we'll get to the closer in a second. I just want to talk about how important it is to really qualify leads and to be extremely disciplined in that approach if you were coaching somebody on it.
Yeah, so the fronting is the foundation. If you can't front, you can't close, period. And so the war scars, the battle wounds that you will get from becoming a ruthless fronter is what will make you a smooth closer. And so I think that what people need to understand is some people will try to contact us and they've never cold called before, or they've never gone through that process, and it's never going to work. It's never going to work because they don't have the grit or the understanding of what it takes to really close a deal. Because when you're fronting, you have to say, it's the worst part of the entire sales cycle. It's the most tedious part. So you're building up a resistance. You have all your objections and your rebuttals completely wired out. We have a soccer ball, and I don't think it's in my office right now, Kent, but you'd love it. On every little diamond of the soccer ball has the like 17 objections that you can only hear on the phone. And so we'll stand in a circle with the soccer ball and throw it around, and as soon as they were like, how'd you get my number? Or how do I know you're not a scam? Or I'm busy right now. And then they have to say, well, ma'am, if you just give me 2 minutes of your time, I promise the information that I have for you, you will find more than valuable. Bam. And they have to be able to throw that ball around in a circle. So for us, we're highly scripted. The script is what gets the leads, the voice inflections are what gets the big commissions, but follow the script and I can get them from really 0 to hero if they just adhere to the script and then take some of our additional layered training on top.
Yeah, so somebody is coming in, again, and I want to, for those that are listening to this, and again, there's people that will watch this and listen to this that have nothing to do with real estate. So I want to talk to, kind of as a more of a overarching theme.
Sure.
Cold calling is probably arguably one of the most brutal ways, sheer grit, brain damage in the trenches, hand-to-hand combat way of generating leads. Highly effective, but to your point, can be extremely tedious. And so to map out that process and get it to where, as well as you guys have, and take it to the places you've been able to take it is just phenomenal.
Thanks.
But taking somebody, and I want to just stress this to everybody, it is not easy to take somebody who's taking a call blindly. We weren't expecting this call today, and somehow moving them over the course of a conversation to a place where they are, one, willing to even continue the conversation with you, but two, even now entertain that your services are something that are interesting to them to the point that they would entertain a second call and or offer. When somebody is trying to accomplish that, what is the thing that they do not, and I know what I would answer, but I want to get your input. What's the single biggest mistake people make when it comes to that? I mean, if somebody's out there and they buy a list and they just start hammering the phone, you've seen this. What's the mistake people make?
For me, from an observational standpoint, the single biggest mistake is giving up. They quit. They don't put in the man hours. They don't hit the tackling dummies. These guys think, hey, I called 60 numbers today. 60 numbers in 30 minutes. I mean, let's go. Whatever your KPIs are. So I think that the reason why most people fail is they have that fear of rejection. What they don't understand is it may take 183 dials or conversations to get to that one golden lead, but boy, you should be excited on 181, 182, because there goes 183. So I think a lot of people just kind of give up before the magic happens because the numbers are in your favor. If you stick to the script, you'll get the leads for sure.
Yeah, and I would argue, that's a great point. And I would argue, not only giving up, but I would also argue, I think that most people have no appreciation that it is an actual skill.
Oh, that's a great point.
They believe that it is just, it is just a function of attrition. You've got the people that, to your point, give up because they don't put in the time. But then you got the other people that just think, man, if I just sheer volume, if I just keep making calls, eventually I'm gonna fall into some shit. When the reality of it is a balance of both, in my opinion. Right? You have to, not only do you have to have the resilience, but you have to appreciate that it's a skill. And you actually have to learn, and you have to use the scripts, and you have to your point, the inflection, the tonality, the way to understand the listening, the what are buying questions, what are questions that where people are engaged with you. There's a whole skill set to be learned there. And if you're not willing to pay the price, then get the hell out of that part of the game. Yep. You don't have to be in this part of the game because there's no point in being mediocre at this.
Yeah, I think what you just said it resonates so well with me because you'll have people who still put in numbers, but unfortunately they're not generating a lead that was built off a rapport or qualified. And I call those heartbeat and a home leads. They're like, oh, they have a heartbeat, they have a home, send it over. You can destroy a sales office like that. You can also destroy your cold calling doesn't work. I generated 7 leads. No, bro, you generated 7 data records. You barely took them from hello to, that's not a lead. And so our philosophy is what this industry calls a lead, I call a data record. What I call an opportunity, or what they call an opportunity is what I call a lead. So it's just how do we elevate the entire game so that way it's that much more refined and you don't have your salespeople wasting time talking to people they never should have been on the phone with in the first place.
So give somebody a way to elevate a lead. If they're on the phone and they're hearing this and they were going to take one thing away, and that, geez, Scott Morris is one of the smartest guys I've ever heard. what is a way that somebody can take a data record and, if they're paying attention, move them up the ladder, escalate them into where they become a lead in your world?
There's so many components, but I'll hit just a brief segment of them. Number one is they win that conversation 5 seconds at a time. Like, it is incremental how you do it. In the first 5 seconds, hey Kent, hey, this is Scott with ABC, blah, blah, blah. I have my guys, we have all high-rise desks, and we understand motion creates emotion. I was honestly anxious going on your podcast today because I know sometimes you stand up, and I was like, damn, I'm gonna sit down on this podcast today, and he's gonna stand up, and neurologically, he's gonna have an advantage when we're speaking over me. So I literally was calibrating and calculating that. So all our guys are standing up pitching, and we're having real conversations. And we also I call it a rain jacket. We'll put on the proverbial rain jacket, let them throw up on you. Let the customer cuss at you. It just rolls right off, baby. You just stick to the script. You treat everybody like you would your buddy, and you talk to them like your friend, and you just win them over 5 seconds at a time. Create some Hollywood.
That is so good. And you know what? It's worth even talking about, because people are like, well, why the hell would you want to stand up? Here's what I can tell you when you stand up. It's really hard when you've stretched out your diaphragm, and to your point, you're excited about the conversation and all that motion that's going on, and you're kind of owning that moment. I love the 5 seconds at a time. When you're owning that moment and you're super present and it's really hard to take somebody down. It's very easy to do when you're slumped over, down like this, talking like this. And I mean, we've gone to the point with our sales guys where for years, we would put mirrors in front of them. The reason we would do that is it is really hard to be a douchebag on the phone when you see yourself in the mirror and you force yourself to smile.
I love it.
Like, if you're smiling and going, it's hard. I mean, you naturally changes your physiology. It naturally changes your psyche. If you're sitting there slumped over, head down, being a douchebag on the phone, then yes, to your point earlier, there's so many points of where you can win in this conversation, and all of that transfers over the phone. It's super important.
Yeah, the culture that we have here, it's pretty amazing. We got beach balls flying around at all times. We got the big gong, music is bumping. Every time somebody sends an in-range lead, which for us means like under 70% of ARV to an affiliate, everybody's applauding, screaming and yelling in the morning. We do 10 I am statements. It's like a football team. It's like a military battleground, and we're all brothers and sisters. It's exactly what I dreamed I would create when I worked my first sales job, and I said, I would want arcade room, I would want ping pong table, I would want foosball table, I would want all these things. And fortunately, that's the culture we've been able to bring to this industry right now.
I love that, brother. I love that. So now let's switch gears. Sure. Let's talk about the closer side of it, because to your point, you're heavy hitters. If they're getting on the phone with the right lead, and you said something earlier, I just want to really stress, there's nothing more demoralizing for a closer than making them dig. Right? And making them go through the grunt work and making them get beat up and all that. And this goes across any sales floor that's out there. If they have to do the heavy lifting and do the digging, and they can't just do what they're great at and close, then you're literally just grinding them the shit out of them. And it's just a brutal process for them. Eagles want to soar, right? You agree with all that?
Yes. It's literally why it's on our lion back here. It's we always say, like, hey, we're not hyenas. We ain't laughing out here on the sales floor. We're going out here, we're getting our kill. We ain't ducks. We ain't waiting for breadcrumbs. We're eagles. We're flying at the top. So I'm 100% with you on that. But if you don't have an environment that feeds that, you can dull the nails of the lion. You can clip the wings of the eagle. And so what you're saying in regards to them not having to dig through, you don't want them to dig through leads. You want them to dig into a lead. And they still got to spend the same amount of time working. You just dig into that lead.
That's really good. You want them going deeper. You don't want them going wider.
Exactly.
Get down in the weeds, understand but that person has already been qualified before they got to them, so they know it's worth their time. And it's them refining their skills, really getting in there and doing the dirty work to understand how to get the deal across the line. They're closers. That's what they're there to do. They're there to get the contract.
Yes, sir.
Right? I mean, so how do you go off and find your best closer?
So I'm really, really good at recruiting at this stage, and I'll share some of these tips with everybody. So Facebook paid ads has been a marvelous way for us to recruit outside of our other general sources. I can tell you which previous job histories I like the most, but we have 3 new closers that just got hired today. We have 2 more coming on out of like 100 resumes that we generated on Facebook for like $6 a piece. So it's like, but our ad excites people. It's got all that Wolf of Wall Street vibe. We want to let them know, to every single talented car salesman out there that feels like they've hit the ceiling, they're tired of walking the lot, but they got the fire in them. Every solar person, if you've done door-to-door solar, I want you in my office, period. At door-to-door, almost anything, but particularly solar or timeshare sales. Those are the guys that I just know, bro, if you sold timeshare, if you fed your family going door-to-door or timeshare for years, you're a killer. Let me give you these leads.
There's no doubt, no doubt. So with that being said, it would probably, a good summary would be that what makes a great closer is that they've been in the fire. They understand the rejection. They don't take anything personal. They know how to listen. They know how to build rapport. They know how to do the deep dives. They know how to do the financial discovery, all the things that really matter to find the pain points, and not in a manipulative way.
Right.
Again, right. I'm going to go back to the point I made earlier. Selling is a skill, and which this is a form of sales, period. If we're trying to get a contract, or we're trying to get a house under contract, we are selling our prospect that we can provide that service to them, period. And so that when you've gone through that and you have that grit and you dial that in, that skill is transferable across any industry, man. I would argue, you may agree or disagree with this, but it might be one of the most important skills that anybody could have as it relates to business.
It's an unfair advantage in relationships. I mean, it really is. It's an advantage that it's when you learn how the power of persuasion, and again, not in a manipulative way, but as we always say, telling ain't selling. And so I can give you a script, but if you don't have sales acumen, or if you don't have a coach who's getting you there, you sound like a robot reading a script. What I'd love to do for you today, I'm gonna go to the back office and I'm gonna go to bat for you. Yeah, you're one of the people, your story stood out to me. I want them to know exactly why you need X. They came back and they said, we're gonna go to war. And so just helping us position our offer, being more Hollywood in our presentations. When I used to do face-to-face sales, one of the things I took into this industry, it was always me and the couple on the other side. So it was like me versus them throughout the entire consultation. But when it came time to the offer, and there was always kind of like that phantom offer, then the TO, the turnover guy would come in, I would always move to their side of the table. And so now, psychologically, I went from being kind of this to now we're buddies, and now we're fighting against this guy. And that's a lot of our offering. All of our offerings on our closing sides go through our back office. And so we have a tiered system to our offering where we know that ultimately in every offer, we're gonna have to position ourselves on their side, advocating for them, advocating to make sure that they can get what it is that they want because our offer came in too low, and finding that sweet spot middle ground. So yeah, learning all those sales tools and utilizing them on our call center side from the fronter or our closer side on the closers, it's really helped propel us within this little industry for the past 2 years.
Yeah, influence and persuasion, man. It's one of the, it is the cornerstone to any successful business. If you don't understand it as a leader and you don't appreciate it and you're kind of just expecting things to fall from the trees, then you are in for a very, very long haul here, right? And I don't care if you're a CEO, I don't care if you're the sales manager, I don't care if you're the closer, I don't care if you're the fronter. Understanding sales, persuasion, and influence are some of the best skills that you will ever acquire in business, period. Because you've got to be able to sell your ideas, you've got to be able to influence people, partners, associates, employees, everybody. And so I could not agree with you more, dude, that having that and getting it dialed into a place like you do right now, where it is just part of your vernacular.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even help it, just like I can't even help it, right? When I stand in front of a room, it's part of, I've done it for so long, it's who I am now at my core. You're the same way.
Yeah, 100%.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned in building this particular business over the last few years? Within this industry, it's probably the realization of what I don't know.
We just submitted an offer for a 196 door self-storage facility for roughly 12 million, right? And so it's like, oh man, shit, I should have gotten a commercial long time ago. I just didn't know. I didn't know. So it's like, hey, well, let's get 30 single families, or let's buy a 60 doorplex, whatever it is. And so that's been something. It's like, man, if I knew that a little bit earlier, I would have done it sooner. I think the thing that I learned that I watch people struggle with the most is having some level of oversight into their businesses, because we got roughly 100 affiliates. And so what I see is one of my things is people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. And so I noticed that people don't have a platform or a system or a SOP to help them really even be able to see how their leads are being treated, how their conversion ratios are, and these types of things. So I think that's a really big opportunity in this space, is to educate people on how to properly take their KPIs, analyze their KPIs, and then not have to do it just once a quarter when they come to your event, right? These are weekly, these are daily, these are whatever event or KPI reports that they can run.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. There's a lot of people that when they realize that they're going to come to the boardroom mastermind, you and I both seen it, that's when they start to get serious about their KPIs. And what that boils down to is they don't understand the benefit.
That's true.
If they really understood the benefit, if they really understood that they could have a complete clarity on their business in real time and make real-time decisions that would ultimately flow all the way through to their revenue and profitability, then they would get it. And it's an uphill battle. I mean, it's a battle that we're both fighting to try to educate people on. But I think it's a battle worth fighting, because I mean, the more people that can become amazing CEOs in this industry, then the industry will be better for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about real quick. I want to switch gears for a second. So, as somebody who runs and does, I mean, how many cold calls do you guys do a month right now?
We're about 2.2 million dials a week right now.
Okay, so let's just call it 10 million a month.
We'll be there soon, yeah.
All right, I mean, 2.2 times 4.2.
Yeah, I know, but it's such a big KPI that I've been gunning for it for so long. We're right there.
You're right there. You're right there. You're over 9 million, and you're getting close to 10. Let's just call it $9 million a month.
Yep.
$9 million a month. What is a reasonable, number one, let's just start from the very beginning, moving left to right. What is a reasonable contact percentage? So if somebody goes and gets 10,000 records, what should their contact percentage be?
So a lot of that's going to depend on the dialer. And so there's various platforms out there. I've had to graduate my way through all of them. The biggest thing that's happened in this industry is something called shake and stir. Shake and stir was a validation of all the phone numbers, and so it started with spam likely, and then in the Q4 of last year, it started doing phantom pickups, where your dialer could place a call, but if that number wasn't properly aged or registered, it would pick up and you'd be like, hello, but it never actually reached the customer. So it was junking up the system. So we've consistently invested in our infrastructure, and we're murdering it on that. But going back to how many answers somebody gets. So for me, if I'm higher than 1 out of 15 every attempt, so no more than 15 attempts, I should get a human on the phone. But when you say 10,000 records, you're like 10,000 records times maybe 3 skip trace. Now you got 30,000 records, and so you can make your way through it. Most people aren't anywhere near 1 out of 15, Kent. They're just not. This is basically ask the expert here. Right. So I'm going to ask the expert, because I want people to have, they're listening to this and they've got guys on the phone and they've got guys that are dialing away. I want them to know what they should expect. Right. So 1 out of 15 is a reasonable contact rate on getting a human being on the phone. How many? So if I've got 15 records, it's 1 out of 15. So now that has officially moved from it was just a phone record to now we've got a data record. We have a real human. How many real humans do we need to talk to in order for us to get something that looks like a qualified lead? Depends on the guy who's got the goggles, right? So what looks like a qualified lead to us is a hyper qualified lead. But our typical agent goes through 183 conversations to convert a lead that wants under 70% of ARV.
So 183 people we need to talk to get a deal, to actually get it under contract?
No.
We need to get it
183, so great question. So 1 out of 15 in answers, and then 183 of those answers. So it takes 183 answers to get a hyper qualified lead. So Barbara answers, no, wrong number, go screw yourself, I'm not interested, blah, 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 blah. So you got to get kicked in the face 182 times in a row. And then finally somebody's ready to rock and roll. They got a good asking price, they got a timeline, they got a motivation. They spent 12 to 17 minutes with us on the phone, building rapport. That's a lead in our books. It takes 182 no's to get to that one yes.
And then that one yes right there, how many of those has it taken you guys to get a contract?
So nationally, no higher than 1 out of 20 with my leads. My leads are such, you should, if you're higher than 1 out of 20 with my leads, you either got to fire me or fire yourself or fire a closer. Like just, that's like a really good.
3,600 people to get a deal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I got to go to 183 to get a qualified lead, and I got to get 20 qualified leads, 20 times 183, 3,600 people to get to a deal. That's exactly the math I'm looking for.
And it's exactly right. So think about it. And that's the reason why this fronter model is so important. Because if you're a guy who's looking to do revenue producing activities, like a closer or a CEO, you don't want to do 3,600 conversations. You just want to do 20. Hey, I'll just buy Scott's 20 leads or whoever, any source, and then I'll convert them here. So you want to have 20 conversations or 3,600 conversations? You don't. I got this side, bro. And so the top guys, because there's guys out here who will watch this and be like, bro, you know I'm not 1 out of 20. We have guys that are 1 out of 10, 1 out of 12, 1 out of 14. So I run neck to neck with PPC in any market on a conversion side. And obviously the spreads are bigger because your capital costs are less with cold call than PPC. Your marketing, cost per lead is lower in my industry and my channel than it would be in a PPC channel.
Right, for sure. And so, all right, let's talk about 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒔𝒕 here for a minute.
Sure.
Let's kind of switch gears. We give them a lot of really good, solid information here, but I want to do a little bit of a mini commercial for you here because you have done phenomenal for a lot of people out there.
Thank you.
So I know that you guys actually now, because you've perfected it on your own business, we talked about this probably 2 or 3 years ago, where that now it's all right, let's take it out to the world. You guys took it out to the world. You've done great. I know a lot of our boardroom members, a lot of our community use you guys. What are the first off, who is the ideal client? You're sitting in the CEO box here, and who is 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒔𝒕 best suited for?
Yeah. So the reason why your community is so such a good marriage of our avatar is because our clients are established. I don't deal with any newbies, and it's not that they're just not ready for us. It's too overwhelming. So our average avatar is somebody who's stuck, initial avatar, somebody who's stuck somewhere between like 4 to 8 deals a month. And they just can't get to that double digits, or they got there 1 month and then things fell off, and they're just like this because you can't build a consistent business off of inconsistent leads or inconsistent quality leads. It's just never gonna happen. Your whole life's gonna look like a roller coaster. So that's like our favorite guys. We have whales out there. My favorite is that 4 to 8 guy because he comes in, he's open, he follows our lead, he adapts well to our technology stack, and then we can stabilize first because we're not just gonna start printing checks immediately. What we got to do is stabilize their operation, get them used to our what we call a data stack, our ecosystem, and then once they're used to that, then we scale. Stabilize, scale.
And so the benefit of them being established, how does that benefit you guys, right? So in other words, you're handing a lead to somebody, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it doesn't do you guys any good to go create these qualified leads, push them through this entire system, only to hand them to somebody and they can't convert shit.
Does me no good, Kent, to burn up a market for a guy or gal or whoever who's not prepared to close a lead. Nothing irritates me. We have a quality assurance Slack channel. Nothing irritates me more when we have a customer call us back and say, hey, that company that you sent me to, they still haven't called me back yet. Lights my, bro, like, what are you doing? We playing video games here or are we closing deals? Like, what's going on over there? What's the point of hiring me if you're not gonna call your leads? So once I raise that avatar, it's like, oh, we're serious people. We feed our families with this revenue, and then they're looking for a strategic partner, which is us, and not just a call center guy.
And so your average customer needs to be prepared to spend what a month in coming into your world. Again, they're established, right? So they understand the value of marketing. What is a great customer? You said you got about 100 affiliates out there. What is a great customer? This 4 to 8. What do they need to be prepared to spend with you?
Over the first 90 days, I'd say 25,000 over the first 90 days.
So 20 to 25,000, which means they should be, the average deal cost is somewhere between 2,000 or 3,000. They should be prepared to do 8 to 10 deals based off of the leads that you bring them in.
Yes. Yeah. And it is, and I appreciate that. And also too, on top of that, it's finally like now they can focus on things they haven't focused on. I can't tell you how many guys, and I genuinely care about these guys, but they've been spending hours of their day doing nothing but like, okay, and what list did I already buy, and how did I do this, and what's going on, and they just don't have that infrastructure. So it's not only, hey, this is the highest ROI channel that I have, like we're doing amazing things here, but now I have time to focus on my systems. Now I have time to actually listen to a call. I'll ask these guys, when was the last time you as the CEO listened to a closer call? Oh, we don't have a phone system. Bro, let's get you a phone system so you can chime into your guys, so you can audit calls. But they just don't have the bandwidth. And so I look at it like a baseball diamond almost, Kent. Like first base is the data integrity, data research. Second base is qualifying the lead. Third is closing it. And fourth is dispo. I'm like, hey man, just give me first and second base. You start every day on third base. Your only thing you got to do is close the deal and get it on the home plate, which is getting funded. Give me first and second. You got third and home, and it's home runs all day, baby.
I love that, brother.
Thank you.
All right, brother. So how do people get in touch with you, man? Because I want to send as many people your way as possible, and I know that not everybody's qualified. I know you guys are super selective. Yeah. I know that there's a lot of people where you have existing relationships in market, so you cannot necessarily work with people. That way you're not cannibalizing your own market. So I'm sensitive to all that, but hopefully somebody out there is listening to this and realizes just how powerful it can be to work with you. So where would they go?
So first thing I encourage, if they're on social media, Instagram.com/llama-su-leads. And the reason why is because I think I'm the first enterprise call center in your space. I want them to see behind the scenes. I want them to see what the sales floor is like. I want them to see what the culture is like. Every time they get a deal, we have a cash wheel, we spend it, we record it, we send it to you. We want you to know the team. We want you to expect what you're gonna get. Like this is a movement for us. Either you're on it or you're off of it, but it's a movement for us. So I want them to experience it that way first. Then just go to my website, fill out a form. It'll take you to my personal Calendly, and then we can just discuss to see if we're a good fit and if there's market availability.
Dude, I love it, brother. This has been extremely impactful, Scott. I wanted to structure this where people got a ton of value just hearing from an expert who's doing 9 million calls a month, hopefully soon to be 10. But equally, I cannot stress enough, guys. I'm not here to do a commercial for llama-su in any way, but I can tell you from personal experience, this is if you value your time and you are looking to focus on quality and you're looking to focus on bigger fish to fry inside of your business, as Scott just said it, allowing them to kind of handle first base and second base, and you just focusing on bringing it around to home plate. This is a great opportunity for a lot of people, so I'd highly recommend. If you don't do that, at a minimum, give Scott a follow and reach out to him and let him know you appreciate the information.
Cool, man.
I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kent. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
All right,
Peace.
talk to you, brother.